Alistair Giffen, co-president of the Energy Club. Nicolas Soulier is my co-president, and Venkat Vinjamuri from the Innovation Club, who in fact is the mover and the shaker of today's event. So it's really on all of our behalves. It's a real pleasure to welcome you, Sylvain, to today's conference. I'm not going to say much other than a very warm welcome and thank you everyone for joining, and obviously a big thanks to Sylvain. Just a quick heads up in terms of the format and a little bit of etiquette. As usual, we'll split the hour and a half that we now have, roughly half between Sylvain's presentation for the first half, and then we'll switch into the question and answer session. Please feel free to type your questions into the chat at any time. And at the end, we'll then effectively, between me and Venkat and Sylvain, choose which questions to answer in what order at the end. So in principle, we'll try and avoid any sort of interruptions. So that's the format. We'll have a close at 10 o'clock French time. Just in terms of muting, if you could all stay on mute, that would be much appreciated, unless we actually invite you to actually speak your question, when it comes to it. But feel free to leave your video on, unless you're kind of climbing up some stairs or driving, because that's always a little bit disconcerting. So that's it, and I'll hand over to Venkat really to do the formal welcome and introduction to Sylvain. Venkat, over to you.
Thank you, Alistair. Firstly, I hope I'm audible, because I couldn't. There was a bit of a break in your voice, Alistair. Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sylvain, for this great opportunity to present about the digital transformation at TotalEnergies. Obviously, a great company, a super major with $185 billion of revenues and increasing. So just a brief background, we had the great opportunity to meet with Sylvain back in 2017 when Total was planning, it was called Total at that point, 2 expansions in India. One is a market expansion and second is the digital hub. So that's where we, in terms of market expansion, as you would have all read, the company tied up with Adani Group. And in terms of digital, the initiatives have been with Tata Group. So that's the high level background. And a lot of great initiatives in terms of how to improve operational efficiencies and supporting the strategy at Total. So I hope that's the right direction. Sylvain, I will hand over to yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. Just before I start, very few words on my background also. Just to, I'm not coming from digital and not coming from IT. I joined this world 5 years ago. Before that, I was in operation, in refining and petrochemicals operation. And just before joining the digital in 2018, I was a managing director of one of the refinery in France, the Grandpuits refinery. I will come back a little bit on that, because this is also a refinery we are transforming to a biorefinery as part of our global strategy towards the net zero. So I hope you can hear me well. I'm very happy to be with you. I will go through the presentation. I've chosen to present you 2 type of organization we have set up. There's a center in India for digital innovation and the digital factory. They are part of a wider group of programs that we have and that serve finally the digital transformation. So I'm the digital transformation officer for the refining and chemicals branch. There I have colleagues for all the other branches, for marketing services, for exploration production, for gas, renewable and power. We are both reporting to the company CDO, Frédéric Jiménez, but also to our branch management to deliver the digital transformation. So to start with a few words on TotalEnergies. So TotalEnergies is a multi-energy player, integrated along the chain from the production, being oil and gas, and being today more and more renewables. Some of you might have seen our investment last year and the one we are going to do this year in our annual result communication last week. So production on one side, then the transformation, and refining chemicals is mainly focused on this transformation part. So taking both oil and renewable for the transformation, and in addition to that, biomass and recycle products. And then we sell the energy, B2B, B2C, trading markets, and all types of energy. This is also one of the reasons why we have changed our name to TotalEnergies, to highlight this change, and it's something that is really happening. Digital is here to support business transformation, and business transformation is not only the global company transformation, it's also for each of the branches. We are going to in a new direction. So exploration production with a real challenge on low emissions, being CO2 or methane emissions, and that's lead also to reshuffling of the portfolio with less oil, more gas. Refining chemicals moving from crude oil refining to more bio production, being biofuels, sustainable aviation fuels. That's a growing product with a very high demand. Biopolymers, that's also something where the demand from our customers is high and also growing. And recycling, we'll come back to that also. Marketing and services, from standard service station and lubricants, bitumen, to new mobilities, electrical mobilities, how to serve differently our customers. And the fastest growing branch, gas, renewable and power, for renewable power production, for LNG transportation and commercialization, and this is growing very rapidly. This is also including from a digital point of view, there is a challenge here to be able to deliver at scale all the projects and reach the commitment in renewable production. So there are 100 gigawatts of renewable power by 2030. So we have already 70 in the portfolio, but we need to convert that into real actual production. All of this and the transformation of the branches is to reach the net zero in 2050 with a very clear milestone in 2025. That's tomorrow, and 2040. That's not that far away. So that's the global picture. Digital transformation is here to support the global transformation. How can we move quicker in this new energy? How can we develop quicker the various projects, and there are use cases for that? And can we support the transformation of our plants? If we take the example of the refinery, is how can we lower the energy consumption? How can we make the refinery more profitable to, let's say, survive in a very competitive world where we still have limited growth in Asia and Middle East, and we are clearly in a declining business in OCDE countries. Refining and chemicals. What are we talking about? We are talking about 14 refineries, including 2 biorefineries. One is the south of France that started 4 years ago, and one that is being converted. This is a Grandpuits refinery, the biorefinery, where we will produce biofuel, biopolymers, and recycle also some plastics. 28 petrochemical plants worldwide, 2 on the bioplastic side and 2 for the recycling. I think now it's a little bit more than 2 because we continue to acquire some companies. And Hutchinson, the rubber company, so for automotive and aviation. It's not under my supervision for the digital, but we are helping them also. It's more on the manufacturing side. So refining chemicals, process industry, continuous work, more capital intensive. Hutchinson is manufacturing. It's more less capital and more people in this industry. There are more people in Hutchinson, twice more in Hutchinson than in the rest of refining and chemicals. For the global transformation, so we started around 2015. So before that, we are just have done some exploration. 2015, 2016, we have starting to develop some programs, technology-based programs. So one on the digital asset twin, one program on the Internet of Things for the industry, one program for the industrial mobility, so smartphones and tablets for the operators. And we have started also in 2018 the Refinery 4.0 program. End of 2019, we realized that this would not have been enough to go at scale. So we have started to work on a digital factory where we would have had our own workforce to develop digital solution. This has led to the digital factory that we have started during the first lockdown, COVID lockdown in 2020. And we have developed around 70 digital solutions. I will present you some of them. And we are now in the process of deploying them at a global scale. So first time of exploration, then building digital solution, and we still do that. And now we are deploying at scale all this digital solution in the plants or in the refineries, in the petrochemical plant, but also for the other branches for E&P and all the affiliates. What we have done at that time in 2019 also was to announce publicly a value target to be created by digital. So $1.5 billion per year after 2025, 1 billion for upstream and 500 million for downstream. So for refining chemicals, it's 200 million of cash flow from operation. And I give this level of precision in terms of what is the metric that we use, because we monitor that very closely to see if we are on track. What's interesting is we see that after every project that we deploy, we add more value to this global value trajectory. when I explain internally, this is something I explain more internally, but I keep it in the slide deck. Why do we have to focus on digital transformation? So on the refining chemical parts, we have our own challenges and contribution to bring to the net zero ambition. So we have to develop biofuel plants and products, and this raises new questions and new challenges. For example, on the bio side, it's not only an optimization in terms of product, but there are a lot of tax incentive in terms of certificates that we have to manage, that we have to allocate to product. This gives some challenges because we need to organize that, but also some opportunities because the market is not fully organized, and there is clearly a window to be cleverer than competition, to leverage on digital and to optimize the use we make from the certificates that are produced with the biomaterial at the beginning, and that goes along the chain of the product with different tax incentive, for instance, depending on the countries in Europe and outside Europe, and to allocate the right product and the right certificate regarding what the local markets and the authorities want. There's some similar challenges on plastic recycling, so recycling certificates, sustainability certificates, plus the optimization of the recycling mix to produce the right polymers. So these are the new challenges. We still have the current challenges in terms of operational excellence. That's availability, that's cost management, that's energy management and reduction to ensure the profitability of our plants. So we have new technologies coming to the field, much more accessible data, new algorithm, more support for our workforce. This is available to us. Our businesses must be convinced that this is an opportunity that has payout time below 1 year, and we don't have that many opportunities in terms of investment. So the one who have understood that, they are willing to put also some resources to support the development and the deployment of the product. On the other side, and that's the second part of the message, this is available to everybody. This is available to our competitors. This is available to new entrants, and this is not that difficult to use, to hire some tech people, to partners with some company, and to deploy the solution. So here it's also a matter of speed, of implementation on the field, and not just defining the solution. And at the end of the day, the real challenge is not only to develop the solution, but also to ensure the adoption and the value. So two setups. What you see on the top is the global digital product life cycle. It starts with some ideas. Actually, it even starts with what we call a value mapping. So we go to one site. You have seen all the refineries and the petrochemical plant, and we do a value mapping. So what is the potential of value that digital can bring to a site? And here for each site, it's a profit center, and the profit center has a target in a long-term target of value creation that has to be made with digital. So we allocate budget and we allocate or we give a target of value to be created with milestones every year. So all our assets, they have both a budget and a target in terms of gain, and they have to define their digital roadmap and choose which development they want to make and which deployment of existing product they want to have. So that's why we do a value mapping to assess the value and see where the value pockets are. It can be on the optimization part. It can be to increase the reliability and availability. It can be in the energy management. It really depends on the site, on its history. Then we do some ideation when we want to build a new product, some framing. We build it, the digital factory, and then we pilot, we deploy in other entities, and we go to the run. So the Center in India for Digital Innovation is now more focused on the initial part, the ideation, and to explore and define new ideas before being transferred to the digital factory. And that's been a spin-off from this center in India towards deployment entities. So the center in India is based in Pune, in Maharashtra. It's in partnership. I'll come to that on the next slide with TCS, and is also has led to the deployment structure. So digital part, innovation part 50 people, and deployment part 200. And in Paris, for the development, we have the digital factory with 300 people. Why do we have this setup with 3 different entities? The innovation part is to have a complementary view outside from France and Europe, and gather ideas from one of the places where tech is happening, and being with a global partner, we have a view on everything that's happening around the world, including the US. Digital factory is for the proximity with the assets and the businesses. So we are a global company based in 130 countries. But the center is still based in Europe, and that's why we've decided to put a digital factory in Paris. So when we want to develop a product owner, so the one who is representing the business and defining the product roadmap, can interact with the digital factory. And even for Africa, it's the same time zone, so it's a matter of convenience. And the deployment entity on the right, also based in Pune. It's the choice of the setup here is cost and flexibility. So we have to have something that is flexible to adapt to the needs of the business, and here the cost factors also enter into consideration. The Center in India for Digital Innovation with Tata Consultancy Services in Pune, in India, where we do exploration when we anticipate technology and evolution. One of the specificities of the digital is that the technology of tomorrow, and tomorrow being in 2 or 3 years, is emerging. One of the best examples we have right now is 5G. If we want to be 5G ready when the technology is mature for industry, let's say next year, we have to anticipate, we have to prepare, we have to de-risk the technology that we want to use. And that's what we do in the CD, in the Center in India for Digital Innovation, with a partner giving us access to his team, to his research and innovation teams also, and to accelerate the innovation part, the understanding of the technology. So what we do there is we have explore and define tracks, where it's more research of what is available, what are the startups, what are the current vendors that we have and can help us, and precise the use cases and the business cases. Then we prototype, especially when we have some data science issue and massive usage of data, and then we transfer to the digital factory. Digital factory, it's another setup. It's 300 people. It's in the center of Paris for it's for attractivity, for worker attractivity, tech people, even in La Défense, close to Paris, not central Paris, and it would have been very difficult to attract people there. We will build a minimum viable product before transferring back them to the deployment structure. There are many data-driven products. We are working, we have set up the digital factory with Accenture, and we are partnering with AWS, Amazon, and Microsoft as technology partners. And you have certainly read that also in the news. The partnership with these two companies are two-sided deals, where we sell renewable power and we buy cloud and we consume clouds. So that's a win-win deal we have with these two companies. So so some example of use cases, just to be a little bit more concrete, I remove the name, but there are many examples of use cases that we have done. For refining chemicals, we have one use case where we manage and optimize rail car fleet. We run 6,000 rail cars to transport our products, and digital can help us to localize in real time our rail cars, to know how to when to do the maintenance, to optimize the route, to bring them to the workshops. Another example is one of the certificates management certificate I mentioned just before. We have use cases on how to optimize our power purchasing for our plants. There is one on hydrogen, and how to on a plant where you have on a typical refinery, you can have 4 to 6 different producers of hydrogen. You will have between 5 and 10 consumers, and you have to align supply and demand, not to go to the marginal supplier. That's usually a third company, and that's hydrogen that is produced on natural gas, what we call gray hydrogen. For 1 ton of hydrogen, you will produce 10 tons of CO2. So we manage and optimize that, and that has been implemented in one refinery in Normandy. leading to close to 10,000 tons of CO2 reduction in 6 months, and that this will be deployed in the other refineries. So that's a typical use cases where we have started with the innovation part, and we have the development in digital factory, and now we are deploying that with the support of the various teams, including those in India. So many use cases. Happy to discuss some if you have, but they are grouped in domains. So there are domains for E&P, there are domains for refining chemicals. Some are commons. These domains, they also have a value objective. That's an important part. So we track the value for each of the profit center, each of the plant, but we also track the value for the domains. That's the setup. That's a central view. So that's what is at the disposition of the business. But my job is also to ensure that we got a proper digital transformation, and that's also a matter of supporting the operation, supporting the businesses. We have a framework based on five pillars. I will discuss 2 or 3 of these pillars in the 3 next slides. So people, how to help support the adoption. The more transformative products mean we change the business processes, and we change them quite significantly. And we have the change resistance. So that's quite usual. That's manageable, and that's what we have done traditionally in IT. But when we deploy at scale, and you have seen the number of use cases that we globally have, we have had to industrialize this global approach to support the transformation. Democratization is for users to directly use the solution, being the mobility, being self-service analytics for the engineers. So part of my job is to provide this kind of self-service solutions so that people can use them and bring the adequate training online 100% of the time. Technology, I will go quickly on that. Value, I already talked a lot on that, but I'll come back to that. Agility, agile portfolio management. It's really a portfolio management. That means we have defined the setup. We are supporting the roadmap of the site, but if they want to do something else, they can. We will adapt. The only thing that is requested from the management and the vision of the digital is they have to deliver the digital gains. So business has to deliver the gains to deploy digital solution with their objective, and for that they have a specific budget. Data is not the easiest part. Data is clearly a mind shift from a focus on process, on software, on application to I've got data. How do we organize the data, even though I don't 100% know what I will do with this data later. On this data journey, quickly on this, we start the journey, and here you have a lot of use cases that are mentioned on the slides. If collect and measure. So how do we collect data and information from the field? from IoT, Internet of Things device that are bringing new data and adding new capabilities. Here, it's really a matter of cost. It's very cheap. It's easy to install. Drones are coming in, and we have more and more use cases on drones, mainly to collect images and to do some computer vision. Something where we are not very advanced in comparison, especially to China, but that's quite normal, is computer vision and putting a lot of cameras. This requires also a lot of connectivity and investment in 4G and 5G to be able to bring the information. Once we have the data, we can use it to analyze, to diagnose, to build dashboard. And when I mentioned the use case on the biocertificates, the first things to do is to bring and build a dashboard. It was the same for the hydrogen. Before optimizing and allocating the right amount of hydrogen, just bringing the vision of the hydrogen network and some easy-to-use tools to the engineers already bring some value. Then we have the simulation tools, digital twin. Digital twin is it's a representation of the reality, a simulation that synchronizes continuously with the reality, helping to optimize and prescribe. And here we are. If I go back to certificate and how do I allocate the certificate to the right product and the right destination. On our hydrogen is how do I change unit setup to reduce the hydrogen consumption. And closing the loop, how do I automate the decisions and the actions? Drone is starting to be part of it. Exploration production is more advanced than refining chemicals, working on unmanned platforms, unmanned plants. That's something that will come later. People. I mentioned people. One of the use cases I like, it's a very easy one. We have a scheduling in each of the plants. We have a scheduling department that is preparing the operating instruction, the setup of the units. The traditional process is we start with a scheduling engineer that is preparing 3 times a week. The schedule is every time is validated by the head of department of scheduling. Is discussed with the operation manager, that is going back to the operation engineer, going to the shift leader and to the panel operator. And at some point of time, we say, okay, what is the value added of this very complex process? And we have proposed a use case and that's been implemented to go directly from the scheduling engineer to the panel operator. Not easy to develop, easy to implement, but a lot of resistance to change of all the manager in the middle of the chain that did not understand their new role. Before they were more in control, verification, and now we just go directly from the scheduler to the panel operator. They are more in the organization and the explanation, and that was a difficult change management. So it's not linked to the complexity of the product, but clearly on how we change the business processes. So we have a framework that starts quite early, 6 months before we actually deploy, where we assess the needs, we prepare the change management plan, the communication plan, all the training. We empower people, and then when we go and execute, product is ready, people are ready to get it. And the last but not least part of it is a sustain to go back 2 months, 6 months, 1 year after, just to be sure that the adoption is still there. Adoption is not usage. Usage is just user using it, and we can measure that. Adoption is like any product. We have to come back, we have to do some survey, and we have to do some on-field check to see if it's properly adopted, and then bringing eventually the expected value. In terms of value, we are not only value focused, we are value obsessed. That's along the chain for each of the use case. We identify the value. We for the plant, for the product, for the domain, we define the value KPI in the product, and we measure that continuously, and we translate that into actual value, taking out external conditions. So if the markets are different, we know how to handle that. I've given some example at the bottom of the slide. Preventive maintenance. If I can anticipate machine breakdown, I can better plan. I can do the maintenance during the week and not on the weekend or the night. It can be shorter, so I will not. I will have to replace or repair the machine, but it will have a shorter duration, so bring more production and less maintenance cost. Logistic cost is what I mentioned also on the rail car, so the ability to reduce tangibly the rail car fleet, and that's how we realized that the value of the use case. Utilities optimization is the one of on the hydrogen, so reducing the use of the marginal external supplier of hydrogen by aligning production and consumption. Maintenance execution is a matter of productivity of the maintenance teams, and we have use cases also on carbon footprint to measure the carbon footprint of the plant and find optimization in the setup and the use of the various sources of energy. We have power, we have steam, we have gas to burn. So this is concretely translated in some use case. We measure the value brought by each of the use case on each of the plants. The reporting is done by the plant, and we check that, and we see that we can increase the global value brought by the digital quarter after quarter. We started to measure 2 years ago, and we are adding 3 to 4 million of additional value on top every quarter. So there is no one big use case where we got all the value. It's a sum of tens and to more hundreds of use cases that are bringing the value. So to finish, and almost on time on that, digital transformation, and the presentation was clearly on the digital transformation. We don't do, and so something I explained to the teams, we don't do digital to ease the life of people. It's part of it, but it's clearly not the focus. So if we want use case to be adopted, it's better if it's simplified the work of people. But the clear target is how do we transform our business processes to find new sources of revenue and to reduce the cost. Transformation requires an agile mindset. This is not one big program. It's not like building a refinery or developing an oil field. We can start small. We can increase with the time. This is never finished. That's something that was not so clear at the beginning, but are always increments in the product because of new needs, because of new environment, because of new technologies also coming in. And at the end of the day, transformation relies on technology, something that would not have been possible without the cloud-based technology. It's something that could not have been possible without capability to work remotely, without the capability to handle a massive amount of data and transmit them and process them. So digital transformation, the presentation was mainly focused on internal activities, and that's what we do. My colleagues from marketing services, mainly a little bit from GRP, they are also working on the digital for customers, so services, products. That's a completely separate presentation. That's not the same challenges. There are some similarities in terms of getting feedback from users, the continuous improvement loop. The philosophy of the transformation and the 5 pillars is quite similar. Value, and we put a lot of emphasis, and I have put a lot of emphasis in this presentation on value because it has shown to be a very good catalyst for the transformation and for the onboarding of our people on site. So I've been a little bit longer than 45 minutes, but I think it was for the time.
Thank you, Sylvain. Venkat and I perhaps will now just share the nice task of choosing amongst the lot of nice questions, Sylvain, perhaps you can see on the chat. But if you, and again, Venkat, perhaps I'll let you run through the questions, and choose who's going to ask in what order, but there are lots of interesting questions. If you don't mind me asking the first one, I mean, Sylvain, you just almost anticipated my question about the external sort of focus and value in terms of your customers and awareness of what's going on and value-added sort of tools and so on that your customers might be using. And of course, today's focus and much of what you presented was much more about internal sort of optimization. My question was, it's not just clearly outside the company, it's not just customers. There is a wide range of stakeholders, not least of which are the government, politicians, decision takers, the policy and lawmakers, clearly, whose decisions have a huge impact on the company and you and the whole energy environment. And I was curious to understand to what extent you can use the power of digital tools to explain and track and present and keep informed, the decision takers, whether they're in Paris or in Brussels, so that they can take better decisions because they understand, how much methane is leaking or how much CO2 is coming out of your refineries. Is that something that you consider, the power of digital technology in terms of explaining and informing external stakeholders again, and to clearly taking I obviously heard what you said, that wasn't necessarily your focus, being more internal, but clearly tracking methane leaks, for example, is something of internal and external interest.
I think tracking methane leak, it's more for EAP. We are more tracking CO2 and energy in RC, but methane leak is a good example. Digital, one of the key points of digital is data transparency. So data is available. If we don't do that, and methane is a very good example, if we don't develop drones, satellites, IoT to measure methane leaks, someone else will do it. So we have to do it. We have to measure. We have to understand, analyze, and reduce and communicate. At the end of the day, we have to communicate. Otherwise, and that's typically a point where we see that authorities and NGOs are going, they will request us to communicate anywhere, and they will put some additional devices. In a typical refinery, for air pollutants like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and nitrogen oxides, you have internal measurements, and usually administration, in almost all of the countries I know, they have put their own measurement device outside, just to be sure that the information is available. But what we see is we have to communicate more and more on our own data, and that's clearly the global trend. So information transparency, relation with local communities, explaining what we do. I've been in the business for 25 years. I've seen the evolution towards more transparency, more communication. But from my point of view, this is only the beginning. At the end of the day, probably all the data will be available, and our mission is also to explain this data, explain what are we doing to continuously improve our operation at a local level and at a national and supranational level, like you rightly mentioned, Europe. So I did not mention all the tracks, but we are working on that. We have some use cases. We have been looking also on trying from analyze media and social media to see where the trends are in terms of preoccupation from the public. It can depend from one side to another. It can depend from one country to another. Anticipate a reaction and subsequently the regulation that could come. But if I come back to the example of the certificates, it's quite interesting. No palm oil in France, no animal fat in Germany. So every country, so we can explain, but at the end of the day, we have to understand and adapt to their needs. There's not necessarily a full rationale beyond that, but we do what. And that's why we stop palm oil in La Mède, in our bio refinery in La Mède. Anyway.
Okay. Thanks, Sylvain. Perhaps if I could choose the first question, then Venkat, I'll hand over to you for the other questions. Interesting question from Olivier Bennett up at the top of the chat. A question that I'm sure is on many people's lips these days. Olivier, do you want to perhaps speak your question?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Sylvain, for the great presentation and taking the time. Very interesting. It's a bit of a hype question. I mean, recently in the last month, we saw ChatGPT making a lot of news and buzz around. So I see 2023, a lot of discussion around AI coming. And my question would be to you, how do you see AI kind of impact your business in general, whether accelerating the digital transformation, helping you in cost cutting, or any other way? Do you have a view of short-term impact, or do you think it's more of the just media hype that we're hearing right now, and it will take more time before it becomes impactful in your business? A bit.
It's not an easy question, but I think we cannot believe it's just a media hype when Microsoft is announcing investment of order of magnitude of 10 billion, and Google is launching, is doing an emergency launch of a similar solution. So the big players are entering this field also. It was a surprise for everybody. ChatGPT 3 has been there for quite some months, available. Next version are coming. So yes, it's transforming. It's probably transforming the way artificial intelligence will interact with humans, supporting differently the everybody. I would say employees work. No, everybody. It will support everybody. I think a lot of use cases are in the pipe for that. I believe it will be like for the rest of the digital. Digital, we see it normally first in our personal life, then in the office, then on the plant. So the probable next step will be in the office, the way we use our productivity tools, 365 and our Google Suite and all of that, and how can they be increased by artificial intelligence. It will help to develop chatbots for the more credible chatbot for the operators. It's a specific set of AI. It's generative AI to generate text that can interact with people. It will not go into all direction. The second comment on that is it requires massive amount of data. And even if you look at ChatGPT, it has been trained on a huge amount, but something that is quite incredible amount of data with 150 trillions of parameters. But with data from 2021, it's not that easy to keep up to date. So we will see how it will move. But with the investment we are seeing from the tech companies, we will see that entering our businesses quite soon. I'm pretty sure. Maybe to do automatic minutes of meetings in Teams or stuff like that. That's why Microsoft is, for instance, discussing.
Great, thank you.
Venkat, over to you.
Right, great. Thanks for that. Right, Sylvain, the first set of questions, as you're mentioning, one of the questions is that the refining margins. How do you see the trend of refining margins going in the last 1 year and going forward? Because we are seeing, I mean, if just to update the audience about the latest numbers, the Brent crude today is $86 a barrel, and you have the petrol price at 1.87 euros per liter in France for January average, and you have a revenue of approximately 85 billion, out of the 185 billion of revenue for TotalEnergies. So at a macroeconomic and a strategic level, how do you see the refining margins going?
I will first answer at the personal level. If someone could really anticipate refining margins, I will not be doing this job anyway. If we could really anticipate and trade on margin, this is a very difficult subject that's been on for always. Margins are squeezed between supply and demand, supply of oil, price of oil, demand from oil products. It depends on the evolution of the war in Ukraine and on the products. It depends on the consumption in China. There are a lot of uncertainties. And at the end of the day, average margin, I don't know, it's something like $4 or $5 per barrel. Compared to a price of oil at 70, 80, sometimes 100 or more. So very small margins that can be affected by the supply side, that can be affected by the demand side. So when demand is reducing, the demand of refining capacity is also reducing. We don't have a crystal ball for that. The things we know and where digital can act is we can act on the utilization of our assets. The higher the reliability, the higher the availability, the higher utilization, the best we can take from the good margins. We can act on our cost. Energy cost, labor cost, maintenance cost. This is where we can act. And this is where we will increase our own margin, not the market margin. We can act on the optimization of the plant, so buying more optimal crude. So a typical refinery buy crudes from maybe 20 sources with the right mix at the right moment for the right product mix. So optimizing crude purchase, product mix, this is somewhere where we can act. The rest, we take it from the outside. And the prediction game at the end, I understand it's important for the analysts and investors, but it will drive some decision on the long term. But these decisions are also driven by the global trends on the demand side. So where is the peak for the demands globally on each continent, and ultimately, this is what we've been seeing in Europe since 1 year. When the market is declining, the less competitive players will go out of the market. Sorry not to be able to answer this question, but that's.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, that's very convincing in terms of looking at the whole macroeconomics. And you also mentioned about the optimization of the input crude from the 20 different suppliers. And that leads me to think about the whole construct of the Nelson Complexity Index and those kind of ideas in terms of ranking refineries towards more lighter crude oil products to figure out where the margins are.
No, this will help me to answer one of the other questions of typical use case. There is one use case called crude flex. So not all typical refinery cannot process all crudes. There are some crudes in its case that could bring some issue in the plant from a corrosion point of view. And the use case that has been developed was to predict the impact of the crude in terms of corrosion, not only pure, but also in blend with some other crudes. And with that, we have been able to buy more of these specific crudes and increase the margin, because they have some issue. They come at a lower price. So anticipating the impact with a lot of data points and then data science models, it allows us to bring more of this crude and process it more and gain some additional margin. That's a typical use case from the digital factory.
Yes, hi everyone. Sorry for the noise around me. So yeah, a question in this digital world with data shared between different partners all over the world, between different clouds and so on. How do you ensure that cybersecurity is at its best, and to avoid all those cyber attacks that we are all hearing about?
So I think one of the key is to work with the tech giants Microsoft and AWS. So we have defined security setup, so cyber security setup, and each of the digital product has its own setup, and is protected by from the outside. Let's say we put the state-of-the-art standards in terms of cyber security. We are continuously investing and updating the platforms, the digital platform, or the product are hosted to cope with the last available standards in terms of cyber security. This is a significant amount of work to ensure the cyber security with the most recent concept, but the point here is to work with Microsoft or AWS, help us also to implement this standards and framework at scale for all the products. The data, there's not many clouds, and there are a few platforms, where the product are hosted. Not that much.
Nicolas, you had a question about Grandpuits.
Yes, given your experience, Sylvain, as the manager director of the Grandpuits Refinery, I'm wondering if you have already decided to do a digital twin for this refinery. So I have no idea if it makes sense or not, and if it makes sense, and if it has been done, do you have any figure to give us the order of magnitude that this digital twin has bring for this business?
No, we do it in more for new projects, so we'll probably do it a little bit later for Grandpuits. A digital twin is what we call an enabler. It's not directly a use case in itself. It's like bringing mobility or potential of value. Not that's I would say between $0.5 and $1 per ton of margin. So a few millions dollars in Grandpuits if we would do it, to have a rough order of magnitude. It's based on the use case, so we have a domain where we see it's all on the maintenance and availability. Give you a rough order of magnitude between $3 to $5 million, I would say, to Grandpuits.
And so it would be worth the digital investment to do that?
I think it's also a matter of priority. Yes, it's standalone. It makes sense to do it. Do we have higher priority use cases? Probably, including for it's a matter of portfolio management. Is also we have limited amount of capex for that, and we will prioritize for the value. That's the clear rule. It's a value driven. And Grandpuits is a quite small refinery. If we'll start with the big ones, and more modern one where the data is more available. But we have done that for a new project in Donge, for a new investment, and we'll probably do that for the new projects.
I had a question that's sort of partly related to Nicolas' question about the digital twin, and it's partly related to the cybersecurity question too. I'm sure you'd agree that there's a huge difference between using digital technology essentially to observe something, to gather information, to see what's going on, to see, you know, with the equivalent of an aircraft perhaps is a good parallel. You know, we all know that aircraft have digital twins where it kind of says, look, the engine's about to break, or it'd be better to fix the engine, you know, next week because it's looking a bit shaky. Clearly, there's a big difference between that and flying the plane, you know, from the ground. Do you have a kind of firewall or a kind of mental or even technical sort of wall between the sort of digital observation and information gathering versus using digital tools to actually, you know, turn taps on or change and actually control, you know, the physical object or environment in question? Is that a sort of a distinction that you share with people and have in mind all the time, or is that a useful distinction?
So yeah, sure. Acting is another topic. So getting that data and putting that to the cloud, it's something that we have done for more than 20 years with technology that are fully secure. So to get data from the control system part and now to the cloud, when we put Internet of Things object and sensors, it doesn't even go to the control system, and to bring that instruction to the control system, that's still innovation to come. We are still working on to see if there's some possibility to do that. We are doing that with, for instance, subject that we've done also in the city that we are studying with vendors. It will come. We will overcome the cybersecurity issue, but we have to clearly control the way the information is transmitted. Anyway, from a purely safety point of view, in a refinery, the control system and the safety system that will shut down the plant, if it's not under control, they are fully separated. So that's another.
That's good to know.
Yeah, but it's already the case. So safety and instrumented system is fully separated from the control system.
Okay, we're out of time. Venkat, do you want to just wrap up and conclude before we close in 2 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great questions, Alistair. Yeah, I think 3 more minutes, and we'll take one more question. That's from myself, if you like. Let's talk about, Sylvain, the time remaining, the hydrogen case, because that's on the lips of everybody. So you mentioned that you have 4 to 6 different producers of hydrogen supplying to the refinery on an average. And obviously hydrogen is used to reduce the sulfur content of the diesel fuel in particular. And now given this requirement, and if we just tie it back to the Grandpuits capacity of 100,000 barrels a day, how does this business case of H2 for digital work out?
I think Grandpuits is like La Med. We are building a renewable hydrogen plant with NG, if I'm right. And Grandpuits, we have announced a renewable hydrogen plant. So that for the decarbonation of hydrogen, especially for the biorefineries, we are following the track of renewable hydrogen. Ultimately, it will replace all what we are doing in optimizing the sources of hydrogen. But if we take the Normandy plant where we have put this hydro-optim use case, you have producer. Some of the internal units are hydrogen producers that we use. Plus, we buy some from a steam methane reformer or some other plants. For Grandpuits, it will be renewable hydrogen. That's very clear, and that's the trend. The first use we will for the decarbonation of hydrogen. That's a global topic where there are pilots and first initiatives for trucks. And we have announced an investment in 100 service stations all over Europe to serve hydrogen trucks. You have initiative on hydrogen for trains in Germany. But the very first priority is for green hydrogen, for La Med, for Grandpuits, and for the others to follow is for the plants for our own consumption. Because you don't have all the distribution and storage issue. You just produce and consume 24/7 the green hydrogen.
Sure, got that. So we are a couple of minutes away. Any other questions on the chat board? We also have people from GE. I mean, Sigdem Demirel, if they're still listening, maybe you have a word to add. She's a general manager with GE Renewable Energy. If you're there.
Okay, perhaps not. Well, we're out of time. It's 10 o'clock, so.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So Alistair, over to you. I think it's back to you for.
Okay. Well, we're as promised, Sylvain. It's 10 o'clock, and we promised that we close at 10 as planned. So again, very big thank you to Sylvain for taking the time and effort to prepare for today and to exchange with everyone. Obviously, some very interesting insights as to how digital is transforming essentially France's largest company, and it's fascinating to see the use cases and to see how much is being invested, obviously in a crucial aspect of the way you run your company and the impact that has on everyone. So again, a very warm thank you for your presentation and answers to our hard questions. We will follow future developments with great interest. Thank you all for joining. Have a good day. Thanks, Venkat, for making this happen. Much appreciated. And Sylvain, again, warm thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.